Hello, dear children. I am your CS Professional YouTube coach, Josh Rajan. Today's topic for my video is one which is a super interesting one. It's a beautiful area to work in for any finance professional. I'll say it's one of the best areas for people who have an interest in it. The topic actually requires reading the module and some practical insights to really understand its beauty. I'm talking about the fourth topic of our module on corporate funding and listing, which is Indian equity private funding. So let's begin this topic. Now, unlike the earlier topics that we discussed, I'm not going to start this topic with basics, but certain real life case studies. Let's begin with understanding venture capital and private equity, two terms which we will be using a lot during the course of the study. Now, before I get into defining these terms, I'll tell you about somebody by the name Renuka Ramnath. Some of you might have heard about her. She is the chairperson of the Indian Private Equity and Venture Capital Association and also the PE fund manager, founder and CEO of Multiples Asset Management Limited. Prior to founding of Multiples Asset Management Limited, Mrs. Ramnath used to be the MD and CEO of ICICI Ventures, the venture capital arm of the ICICI Group. This case is from one of our own classes to IIM Ahmedabad, which is available on YouTube. We'll begin when the PE industry or the venture capital industry was still in its infancy in India, somewhere in the early 2000s or end 1990s. There were very few international private equity players in India, and there were hardly any Indian ones. And ICICI Ventures at that time was one of the first venture capital fund to be formed. What a private equity or venture capital is, we'll look into later, but for now, just think of it as a privately pooled investment vehicle. Something like REITs or InvITs, but privately pooled. During this time, after when Mrs. Ramnath was looking for pooling of the investments, she held multiple rounds of meetings with various financial institutions. And she was finally able to raise a sum of 150 crores from LIC, that is Life Insurance Corporation of India. This was one of the first investments that LIC had made into something like this. Now, after ICICI Ventures created this investment pool, the next thing they had to do was they had to invest the money. Now, bear in mind that people who invest in these type of funds are taking certain risks over and above the ordinary risk. What are these risks? Like the nature of the investment is illiquid. You cannot immediately convert it into liquid funds. The transactions have a long lock-in period. The returns from the transactions depend a lot on the quality of management of the investee companies and so on. So naturally the returns should match the risk, because why else would somebody want to take more risk? So Mrs. Ramnath and her team set about looking for the right areas to invest its funds. At that time, there was a company by the name PVR. You know the multiplex chain, right? But at that time, around 2001-2002, PVR had around 12 screens. And it was in the process of setting up 7 more screens. So there were a total of 19 screens that PVR had or was in process of developing at that point. Now, ICICI Ventures, after doing all its due diligence from its end, decided to invest around 40 crore rupees in the equity of PVR and take a 45% equity stake. Now, this was a time when the multiplex industry was still at its nascent stages, and PVR was one of the first chain of multiplexes in that during that time. In 3 years' time, PVR size grew from 12 screens to 150 screens, and subsequently it even went public. ICICI Ventures, from that investment of 40 crores, it made 5 times returns on its investments. This was an example of your venture capital funding. So a company which was still in its formation years was identified, it was funded, and it grew in size. Fast forward many years down the line, PVR was already listed. Now it was looking at acquiring another listed company at that time called Cinemax. But Cinemax was 85% the size of PVR. So obviously funding the deal was a major roadblock. Now at this point, the management of PVR again approached Mrs. Ramnath, who by that time had started her own PE company called Multiples Asset Management Limited. Multiples funded the deal, and the rest, as they say, is history. It was a private equity deal with some debt funding. Today, PVR Cinemas has 845 screens in 71 cities in India and Sri Lanka. So you see how a company grew from a mere 12 screens to 845 screens within a span of less than 20 years. That is the power of venture capital and private equity. If you look around in the world today, some of the biggest companies that exist, be it Facebook, Uber, Tesla, all these companies have benefited from this kind of funding. So to put it simply, I'll say venture capital funding is for the early stages of a company, whereas private equity funding is for the mid to semi-large companies. Both of these have a long-term equity funding perspective, and they source their funds from private pool of investors. Hope you get a picture of what these terms venture capital and private equity mean. I'll provide the link to the original video by Mrs. Ramnath. To those of you who are interested, it was a video that she presented, in fact a session which she presented to students of IIM Ahmedabad. I'll put the link in the description. Now I'll do one more case study for one other kind of fund called as hedge fund before we begin the topic. Here we look at a US company stock called GameStop. Some of you might have heard about this company because it has been in the news lately for stock prices increasing close to 1,700 times in the span of a month. Even Elon Musk tweeted about the stock. So this company GameStop is a US video game, consumer electronics and gaming merchandise retailer. It's a very old group in the US. But its business model is one which is on the decline because it's more of a brick and mortar model, while the competition now for this business is more online. So stock prices of GameStop were expected to decline. But instead of declining, the stock prices rose by more than 1,700%. Before we look into what caused this, we'll try and understand the word hedge. Hedging means something which will protect you against adverse price movements. It's a good thing to do, right? A lot of people need to hedge their positions out of compulsions or defense against an adverse price movement. What a hedge fund, however, does is not a position to safeguard its existing positions, but to make a profit through some kind of an arbitrage. That is, they buy and sell immediately within a short period, and by doing this, they earn a profit. For this, they apply complex strategies. Now, in the case of GameStop, what happened was that a few hedge fund managers like Melvin Capital, they saw an opportunity to make a quick profit by short selling the stock. Short selling is a strategy that makes money in a market where the prices are falling or expected to fall. So say there is a stock which is currently trading for 100 rupees but is expected to go to 90 rupees in the immediate future. Then the short seller will sell the stock today by borrowing it from, say, a lender, and when the stock prices reaches 90, that person will buy the stock from the market and return it to the lender along with any margin that is required. So you can think of margin as some kind of interest that is payable to the lender of the stock. Whatever difference, that is the difference between 100 rupees and 90 rupees and the margin, would be the profit of the short seller. Now such strategies have helped hedge funds make billions and billions of dollars in the past. What happened in this case, that is the case of GameStop, however, was that the stock prices, instead of declining, went up. So even though the company was not performing greatly, the stock prices kept on increasing. Now why did this happen? This happened because the hedge funds had taken huge positions and short sold GameStop. And when they tried to square off their positions by buying from the market, they found that there were no sellers in the market. Why there were no sellers is something which is entirely unrelated to our topic. I will not go into that. But for people who are interested, you can find many videos on YouTube and other channels. But because of this demand-supply mismatch, there is the high demand for the stock from hedge fund managers but low supply of the stock prices kept on increasing. This resulted in the hedge fund losing huge sums of money. This does not mean that the hedge funds always lose money, but what I am trying to say is that hedge funds are companies that earn income out of trading strategies. So they take high bets on prices going either ways, up or down, in the short run. Whereas on the other hand, venture capital funds or private equity funds will take long-term investment strategies. Hope you understand the difference. With this basic knowledge, we will proceed with the topic. Let's now look at the history of regulations in India in this area. Now what happened was that SEBI somewhere in 1996 it had come out with SEBI Venture Capital Funds regulations to encourage funding of entrepreneurs, early stage companies. However, what SEBI found out was that the regulations were being used to register funds like private equity, private investment in public equity, real estate and so on, because at that time there were no separate regulations for these funds. Also, it was found that not all players in the venture capital fund or PE industry were registered with SEBI because registration was not compulsory. Now earlier we had discussed that initially the venture capital or private equity space was dominated only by a few players and it wasn't too large. But slowly as the market expanded, the number of players in this field multiplied. Also, these players were dealing in huge sums of money, both from India as well as abroad. So SEBI in 2012 decided that it was necessary to regulate all the funds that are pooling money from private sources. Also, it realized that the investment strategies for different kinds of privately pooled funds are different. So it was necessary to lay clear guidelines in this regard. Thus, SEBI came out with the SEBI Alternative Investment Funds Regulations in 2012. Please always remember the word is alternative and not alternate. Many times there is this confusion in people's mind, but it's important that you note this, as the exam evaluator can find it very annoying if a student doesn't remember the name of the regulations. So it is alternative and not alternate. Now, what are the different funds that can be registered as alternative investment funds? There are three categories. We will look into them in detail later on. But broadly, they are the category 1 AIF, which will include your venture capital funds, angel funds, SME funds, social venture capital funds, infrastructure funds. And your category 2 AIF will include your private equity funds, real estate funds, funds for distressed assets, debt funds, funds of funds. Category 3 AIF will include your hedge funds, private investment in public equity funds. We'll look into a few more points before we move on. Registration of an AIF is now mandatory under the regulations, under any of the three categories, but registration is mandatory. Also, there can be multiple schemes under a single AIF, similar to mutual funds. So there can be multiple schemes under one AIF, subject to filing of placement memorandum with SEBI. So there is a concept of filing of placement memorandum with SEBI, similar to your InvITs. In case of a private placement, there is a placement memorandum concept. Change of category subsequent to registration is subject to SEBI approval. So in case there is a request for a change of approval, change of category, that will be subject to SEBI approval. Any registration, reporting and compliances of AIF need to be done through an online system only. So there is an online system in place which SEBI has put, and any registration, reporting and compliances has to be done through this online system only. That's all on the basics part. We'll now discuss a few key terms used in the regulations. 5 of these terms have been asked in the December 2020 exams for 1 mark each. Now some of these terms can be explained in maybe 3 or 4 lines, but some are really huge for 1 mark. But you cannot really curtail a definition too much. We'll begin with the definition of an alternative investment fund. This was one of the definitions which was asked during the December 2020 exams. What I'll do is I'll first read this definition and then I'll try and explain an alternative investment fund. So an alternative investment fund means a fund established or incorporated in India in the form of a trust, company, limited liability partnership, body corporate, which is a privately pooled investment vehicle which collects funds from investors, whether Indian or foreign, for investing as per the defined investment policy for benefit of investors. And it is not covered under the SEBI Mutual Fund Regulations 1996 or the SEBI Collective Investment Scheme Regulations 1999 or any other regulations, provided that the following shall not be considered as alternative investment funds. These include your family trusts set up for the benefit of relatives as defined under the Companies Act 2013, ESOP trusts set up under the SEBI Share-Based Employee Benefit Regulations 2014 or as permitted under the Companies Act 2013, Employee Welfare Trust or Gratuity Trust set up for the benefit of employees, holding companies as defined under Section 246 of the Companies Act 2013, other SPVs not established by fund managers, including your securitization trust regulated under a specific regulatory framework, funds managed by a securitization company or reconstruction company registered with SEBI under the SARFAESI Act of 2002, any such pool of funds which are directly regulated by any other regulator in India. So the key term to remember here is that for the regulations, an AIF should be established or incorporated in India. It can be formed as a trust, a company, a limited liability partnership, a body corporate. So there is no compulsion of forming it as a trust, unlike REITs or InvITs. Then it should be privately pooled investment vehicle, which means funds should only be collected privately and not from general public, though the investors can be Indian or foreign. There should be a defined policy for investing for the benefit of investors. Then it should not be covered under any other regulation. So AIF is a kind of residuary regulation for privately pooled investment. However, there are some privately pooled investments which will not be considered as AIF. These include your family trusts, ESOP trusts, or other employee welfare trusts like gratuity or holding companies, SPVs regulated separately, and securitization company or reconstruction company, funds regulated by any other regulator. So that is the definition of alternative investment fund as per the regulation. Moving on, we will try and understand what is a corpus. A corpus means the total amount of funds committed by investors to the alternative investment fund by way of a written contract or any such document as on a particular date. We hear this term a lot, so it basically means the amount of funds committed by the institutional investors or HNI investors. It may or may not be brought on day one. Let's look at debt funds. Debt fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in debt or debt securities of listed or unlisted investee companies according to the stated objective of the fund. So they are investing in debt or debt securities like debentures. Next, we look at the definition of a hedge fund. A hedge fund means an alternative investment fund which employs diverse or complex trading strategies and invests and trades in securities having diverse risks or complex products, including listed and unlisted derivatives. So we have already seen the example of GameStop in our earlier slide. So Melvin Capital was an example of hedge fund. Infrastructure fund definition is also asked in the December 2020 exams. An infrastructure fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in unlisted securities or partnership interest or listed debt or securitized debt instruments of investee companies or special purpose vehicles engaged in or formed for the purpose of operating, developing or holding infrastructure projects. So don't confuse this with your InvITs. These do not invest directly in completed and revenue generating projects like InvITs. But an infrastructure fund, it will be pooling the private funds and investing it in the equity or debt securities in the infrastructure sector. What is a private equity fund? A private equity fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in equity or equity linked instruments or partnership interest of investee companies according to the stated objective. We have seen the case of multiples in the earlier definition. What is an SME fund? An SME fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in unlisted securities of investee companies which are SMEs, that is your small and medium enterprise, or securities of those SMEs which are listed or proposed to be listed on the SME exchange or SME segment of an exchange. So there is a separate SME exchange or a separate SME segment of an exchange where the SME companies are listed, and SME fund will be investing in such securities. So SME means your small and medium enterprises as defined under the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act of 2006. Moving on, what is a social welfare fund? This definition was also asked in the exam. So your social welfare fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in securities or units of social ventures and which classifies social performance norms laid down by the fund and whose investors may agree to receive restricted or muted returns. So the returns are not the primary objective in a social welfare fund, rather it is for promotion of social welfare or solving social problems. When they talk of returns, they are concerned with the societal changes which happen with the invested amount. There could be returns, but they would be insignificant. Who's a sponsor? A sponsor means a person or a persons who sets up the alternative investment funds and includes sponsors in case of a company and designated partner in case of a limited liability partnership. So sponsors are like promoters or founding partners. This was also asked in the exam. Lastly, we will look at the definition of a venture capital fund. A venture capital fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in unlisted securities of startups, emerging or early stage ventures, capital undertakings mainly involved in new products, new services, technology or intellectual property rights based activities or a new business model, and shall include an angel fund as defined under Chapter 3A of the SEBI Alternative Investment Fund Regulations of 2012. So you can relate this to your ICICI Ventures which invested in PVR. So Venture capital undertaking means a company which is not listed on the stock exchange and which is engaged in providing services or production or manufacture, but excludes your NBFCs, gold financing, activities not permitted under industrial policy or specified by SEBI. Moving on, we'll now look at the various categories of alternative investment funds. As mentioned earlier, there are three categories of alternative investment funds: Category 1, Category 2 and Category 3. Now, Category 1 includes those alternative investment funds which invest in startup, early stage ventures, social ventures, small and medium enterprises, infrastructure or other sectors or areas which the government or regulator considers socially or economically desirable. Note in mind that the keywords here are socially or economically desirable sectors as per the government or regulators. This could be your venture capital funds or SME funds or social venture funds or infrastructure funds, and such other alternative investment funds are specified. So under Category 1 AIFs, you've got subcategories of venture capital fund, SME fund, social venture fund and so on. The Category 1 AIFs are generally perceived to have a positive spillover effect on the economy, and for which SEBI or the Government of India or other regulators in India might consider providing incentives or concessions. So Category 1 AIFs are eligible for investments for incentives and concessions. Now, before looking at Category 2, we will see what is there under Category 3. We'll just skip Category 2 for a moment and go to Category 3. So Category 3 includes those alternative investment funds which employ diverse or complex trading strategies and may employ leverage, including through investment in listed or unlisted derivatives. What is leverage? Leverage is basically an indicator of the use of borrowed funds. Alternative investment funds such as hedge funds or funds which trade with a view to make short-term returns, or such other funds which are open-ended, are included in this category. Naturally, there will be no specific incentives or concessions given by the government or any other regulator to this category. Now coming to Category 2. So anything which is not included in Category 1 or Category 3 is included in Category 2. So this includes your private equity funds or debt funds. And this Category 2 AIFs do not engage in leverage strategies, and they do not receive any special incentives or concessions from the government or regulator. Let's now discuss about the investment into and by an AIF. This is a big section, so we will break it into parts. We'll begin by understanding a few terms, and we'll start with placement memorandum or information memorandum. We had seen the term placement memorandum and information memorandum in the InvIT section. So placement memorandum is similar to that same concept, and in fact it is nothing but an offer document, but it is created at the time of private placement, unlike an offer document that is created at the time of public issue. It contains matters such as all material information about the alternative investment fund and the manager, the background of the key investment team of the manager, the targeted investors, fees and all other expenses proposed to be charged by the AIF, the tenure of the AIF or the scheme, the conditions or limits on redemption, the investment strategy, the investment purpose and the method of investment, the risk management tools and parameters employed, the key service providers, any conflict of interest and procedures to identify and address them, any disciplinary history like any action taken by SEBI earlier, the terms and conditions on which the manager offers the investment services, its affiliation with other intermediaries, the manner of winding up of the AIF or the scheme, and such other information as may be necessary for the investor to take an informed decision on whether to invest in the AIF. So basically an information memorandum will contain all the details which will enable a potential investor to take an informed decision, just like your offer document. Now, what are schemes? You must have heard the word schemes in a mutual fund. They are basically subcategories of mutual funds. So, the schemes can be classified based on maturity, like your open-ended or closed-ended, or as per the investment objective. So it can be growth oriented, income oriented, balanced, and so on. Hope you understand that. Now, how are AIF schemes launched? For this, the AIF will file the placement memorandum with SEBI first, along with the fees. After filing the placement memorandum, the AIF has to wait for a minimum of 30 days before it can launch a scheme. SEBI in the interim can communicate its comments or observations on the placement document to the applicant prior to the launch of the scheme, and the applicant shall incorporate the comments in the placement memorandum. Now, we saw in the previous slide that the AIF has to mention the investment strategy in the placement memorandum. But can the strategy be changed? To change the investment strategy, the AIF will have to acquire consent of at least 2/3 of the unit holders by value of their investment. Only post receipt of the consent can the investment strategy be changed. Let's now look at some conditions of investment in an AIF. So an AIF in all categories, that is your category 1, 2 or 3, may raise funds from any investors. They can be Indian, foreign, NRI, but it should only be by way of issue of units, of course through the private placement mode. The corpus size. Each scheme of the AIF shall have a corpus size of minimum rupees 20 crore, and the minimum investment by an investor in the AIF shall be rupees 1 crore. The only exception provided is to employees or directors of the AIF or manager who can invest a minimum of rupees 25 lakhs. Rest, any third party investor will have to invest a minimum of 1 crore. Now, the next condition is with respect to a minimum continuing interest or stake requirement by the manager or sponsor. So in case of a category 1 and category 2 AIF, the minimum stake that the manager or sponsor needs to have is 2.5%, 2.5% of the corpus, or rupees 5 crore, whichever is lower. This investment cannot be through waiver of management fees. In case of a category 3 AIF, which includes your hedge funds, the minimum stake of the manager or sponsor has to be 5% or rupees 10 crore, whichever is lower. So the minimum stake in the case of a category 3 AIF is higher, that is 5% of the total corpus, or 10 crore, whichever is lower. This investment made by the sponsors or managers should be disclosed to the investors, so that the investors get to know what is the investment made by the sponsor or manager. The maximum investors allowed in a scheme of AIF is 1,000. there cannot be more than 1,000 investors in an AIF. This is subject to the provisions of the Companies Act 2013. As in case if the AIF is formed as a company, so what this means is that under the Companies Act, there's a requirement of the maximum shareholders in the case of a private company, which is 200. So if the AIF is formed as a private company, the maximum number of shareholders can be 200 as per the Companies Act. So then the Companies Act will prevail in that case. The manner of collecting funds. So funds can only be collected through private placement. This we discussed earlier. There can be no public issue. Now we come to the tenure of investment in an AIF. That is, for what tenure an investor can invest in an AIF. Here I'll say there are a few flaws in the module, so it's better you go through the actual regulations available on SEBI website while reading the section. So your category 1 and category 2 AIFs can only be close-ended. Close-ended means that the units can be brought only through an NFO, that is a new fund offer. Also, there is a minimum locking period attached to the units. Now in the module, if you read, it is mentioned that category 1 and category 3 are close-ended, while category 2 can be open-ended or close-ended. This is incorrect. Actually, if you go through the regulations, you will find that category 1 and category 2 AIFs are close-ended, while category 3 AIFs can be open-ended or close-ended. Then the minimum tenure for holding in category 1 and category 2 AIF is 3 years, and the period is extendable by 2 years with the approval of 2/3 of the unit holder. There is no such minimum tenure prescribed for category 3 AIFs. In the absence of approval by the unit holders to extend the tenure, the AIF has to compulsorily liquidate within 1 year following the expiration of the fund tenure or extended tenure. Coming to the next point on listing, listing is allowed only to close-ended AIFs to make them a bit liquid. So even though a purchase of fresh units is not possible for a close-ended scheme, the units can be traded in the secondary market, so somebody can buy and sell the units. The minimum trading lot for a listed AIF is 1 crore. Also, listing of AIF units is permitted only after final close of fund scheme. If there are any issues that you did not understand, you can leave a comment and I will try to explain in detail further. Next, we look into the general investment conditions, that is the conditions for investment by the AIF. The first condition is that the AIF may invest in securities of companies incorporated outside India, subject to conditions or guidelines stipulated or issued by RBI and SEBI from time to time. So in case the AIF is intending to invest in securities outside India, then the RBI and SEBI guidelines will prevail and they will have to be complied with. Co-investment in an investee company by a manager or sponsor shall not be on terms more favorable than those offered to AIF. So if you remember, we had such conditions even in REITs and InvITs. So on similar lines, the co-investment, if it is undertaken by an AIF, should also ensure that the terms of co-investment should not be more favorable to the co-investor. Then the maximum investment in one investee company by a category 1 and category 2 AIF can be 25% of the investable funds. that is a category 1 and category 2 AIF, can invest a maximum of 25% of investable funds in one investee company. Whereas a category 3 AIF can invest a maximum of 10% of investable funds in one investee company. Then the investment in associates by the AIF is subject to approval of 75% of investors by value of their investment in the AIF. So in case the AIF intends to invest in associates, it will require an approval of minimum 75% of the investors by value. The next condition is that any uninvested portion of the investable funds may be invested in liquid mutual funds or bank deposits or other liquid assets of higher quality such as treasury bills, CBLOs, commercial paper, certificate of deposits, etc. till the deployment of fund as per the investment objectives. So the excess funds of an AIF can be parked in liquid securities of high quality. Then an AIF may act as a nominated investor to the SME IPOs. Who are nominated investors? Nominated investors are the category of investors who enter into an agreement with the merchant banker to subscribe to the issue in case of undersubscription or to provide liquidity by receiving or delivering shares in the market making process. Finally, the investment by category 1 and category 2 AIFs in the share of entities listed on the institutional trading platform after the commencement of SEBI issue of capital and disclosure requirement 4th Amendment Regulations 2015, that is your ICDR 4th Amendment Regulations 2015, shall be deemed to be investments in unlisted securities for the purpose of AIF regulations. Your institutional trading platform is also known as the Innovators Growth Platform. It's a listing platform for companies with intensive use of technology, information technology, intellectual property, data analytics, biotechnology and nanotechnology in their business. So investment in that platform, that is the institutional trading platform, will be considered as investment in unlisted securities for the purpose of the AIF regulations. Now we will be discussing specific investment conditions. So a category 1 AIF has to invest in investee companies or venture capital undertaking or in special purpose vehicles or in limited liability partnerships or in units of other alternative investment funds as specified in the AIF regulations. Earlier we have seen how a category 1 AIF means one that invests in high priority sector and for which the AIF may also receive concessions from SEBI or the other regulators or the government. So the investments by a category 1 AIFs are regulated and defined. The investments have to be as specified in the regulations. Whereas a category 2 AIF has to invest primarily in unlisted investee companies or in units of other AIFs as specified in the placement memorandum. So the restriction here is as per the specifications of the placement memorandum as approved by SEBI. And a category 3 AIF can invest in securities of listed or unlisted investee companies or derivatives or complex or structured products. So there are no any specific restrictions in case of a category 3 AIF. Now, if there are fund of funds, what is a fund of funds? You must have heard this term in the context of a mutual fund. So, what the fund of fund does is that it will invest not directly into shares or securities, but in units of other mutual funds. So in case of a category 1 AIF fund of fund, the investment can only be in units of other category 1 AIF of the same subcategory. Say if the fund of fund is of a venture capital fund, then the fund of fund has to invest in another category 1 AIF in the same subcategory, that is venture capital fund. It cannot invest in other subcategories like social welfare fund or infrastructure fund and so on. Hope this is clear. Whereas in case of a category 2 AIF fund of funds, the investment can be in units of other category 1 and category 2 AIFs. Similarly, a category 3 AIF fund of fund can also invest in units of other category 1 and category 2 AIFs. However, what needs to be remembered is that in all these fund of funds, be they category 1, 2 or 3, they cannot invest in units of other fund of funds. That is, one fund of fund cannot invest in other fund of funds. They can invest in a fund but not in a fund of funds. Now coming to the point of leverage. Leverage, as I explained earlier, is the ratio of borrowed funds to own funds. An entity which has a higher proportion of borrowed funds is called highly leveraged entity. Leverage is restricted for category 1 and category 2 AIFs. So category 1 and category 2 AIFs cannot engage in leverage transactions except for meeting temporary funding requirements, that too for a max of 30 days and on maximum of 4 occasions in a year. Further, this can be up to max of 10% of the investable funds only. So there is a restriction with respect to leverage in case of a category 1 and a category 2 AIF. But for category 3 AIFs, they can engage in leverage transaction subject to the consent from investors and any maximum limits specified by SEBI, if any, and by making appropriate disclosures. We'll now look into some specific investment conditions by subcategory. Let's begin with the category 1 AIF. In the case of a venture capital fund, at least 2/3, that is 66.67% and above, of the investable funds shall be invested in unlisted equity shares or equity linked instruments of a venture capital undertaking or in companies listed or proposed to be listed on an SME exchange or SME segment of an exchange. So the key word to remember here is venture capital undertaking. A venture capital fund can invest in venture capital undertaking or SMEs that are listed or proposed to be listed. In the case of an SME fund, at least 75% of the investable funds shall be invested in unlisted securities or partnership interest of venture capital undertaking or investee companies which are SMEs or in companies listed or proposed to be listed on the SME exchange or SME segment of an exchange. So an SME through a SME fund is also allowed to invest in venture capital undertaking. So you can say that to some extent the investment of a venture capital fund and SME fund overlap. In the case of a social venture fund, at least 75% of the investable funds shall be invested in unlisted securities or partnership interest of venture funds of social ventures. Here the key word is social ventures. We have discussed some forms of social ventures earlier. Lastly, in the case of infrastructure fund, at least 75% of the investable funds shall be invested in unlisted securities or units or partnership interest of venture capital undertaking or investee companies or special purpose vehicles which are engaged in or formed for the purpose of operating developing or holding infrastructure projects. Point to note is that only in the case of venture capital fund, the minimum investment has to be 2/3. While in all other category 1 AIFs subcategories, the minimum primary investment has to be 75%. Now we look at some other investment conditions for a venture capital fund. A venture capital fund can invest not more than 1/3 of the investable funds in subscription to initial public offer of a venture capital undertaking whose shares are proposed to be listed. Because the primary role of a venture capital fund is to act as an early stage investor, which is before listing by an entity, so it can invest not more than 1/3 of investable funds in those venture capital undertakings that are proposed to be listed. The second condition is that the debt or debt instrument of a venture capital undertaking in which the a fund has already made an investment by way of equity or contribution through partnership interest. So while primarily a venture capital fund does equity investment, it can also invest in debt securities of undertakings where it has made an equity investment. The third condition is that it can invest in preferential allotment, including through qualified institutional placement of equity shares or equity linked instrument of a listed company subject to lock-in period of 1 year. I think this should be clear. The fourth condition is that the venture capital fund can invest in equity shares or equity linked instruments of a financially weak company or a sick industrial company whose shares are listed. So a venture capital fund can not just be a participant in the early stages of a company, but it can also invest some proportion of funds in trying to revive financially weak or sick company. The fifth condition is that the venture capital fund can invest in special purpose vehicles that are created by the fund for the purpose of facilitating or promoting investments in accordance with the AIF regulations. We saw earlier that the investment areas of a venture capital fund and an SME fund overlap to some extent. Now there are a few more such conditions which overlap in case of a venture capital fund and an SME fund. These are: a venture capital fund and an SME fund can enter into an agreement with the merchant banker to subscribe to the unsubscribed portion of issue or to receive or deliver securities in the process of market making under SEBI ICDR Regulations 2018. Please bear in mind we are talking about the public issue that the investee company or the venture capital undertaking is coming out with. Don't be confused that an AIF can only raise funds through private placement. So then how is this happening? We are talking about investments made by the venture capital fund or SME fund. So these funds can enter into agreement with merchant bankers to subscribe to the unsubscribed portion or to act as market makers. Basically, they can be the nominated investors. I will discuss the concept of market making in a later video. Also, in case of a venture capital fund, the provisions of Clause A and Clause B of Subregulation 2 of Regulation 16 of AIF regulations will not apply in case of acquisition or sale of securities. So Regulation 16 talks about the investment limits of 2/3 and 1/3 in case of a venture capital fund. Next is such funds, that is a venture capital fund and an SME fund, shall be exempt from Regulation 3 and 3A of SEBI Prohibition of Insider Trading Regulations 1992 in respect of investments in companies listed on the SME exchange or SME segment of an exchange, pursuant to due diligence of such companies and subject to the following conditions. The first condition is that the fund shall disclose any acquisition or dealing in securities pursuant to such due diligence within 2 working days of such acquisition or dealing to the stock exchange where the investee company is listed. Second condition is that such investment shall be locked in for a period of 1 year from the date of investment. Regulation 3 and 3A of the PIT regulations talks about prohibition on dealing, communicating or counseling on matters related to insider trading. So these regulations will not apply subject to adequate disclosure and lock-in. The other investment conditions for a social venture fund are the social venture fund can accept grants provided that such utilization of such grants shall be restricted to investing in unlisted securities or partnership interest of social ventures. So the utilization of grant will be restricted. Also, the amount of grant that may be accepted by the social venture fund from any person shall not be less than 25 lakh rupees. Further, no profit or gain shall accrue to the provider of such grants. Such social venture funds can also give grants to other social ventures provided that appropriate disclosure is made in the placement memorandum. And such funds may accept muted returns for their investors, that is, they may accept returns on their investments which may be lower than the prevailing returns for similar investments. Let's look at the investment conditions for an infrastructure fund. An infrastructure fund can invest in listed securitized debt instruments or listed debt securities of investee companies or special purpose vehicles which is engaged in or formed for the purpose of operating, developing or holding infrastructure project. So for the balance funds, that is after the primary investment by an infrastructure fund, the balance funds can be invested in listed securitized debt instrument or listed debt securities of investee companies or special purpose vehicles. Moving on, we'll look into the other investment conditions for category 2 and category 3 AIFs. The other investment conditions for category 2 AIFs are also similar to the other conditions we discussed for venture capital fund and SME fund. So a category 2 AIF may also enter into an agreement with merchant banker to subscribe to the unsubscribed portion of the issue or to receive or deliver securities in the process of market making by SEBI, market making under SEBI ICDR regulations 2018. That is, the category 2 AIFs can also act as nominated investors who subscribe to unsubscribed portion and perform market making functions. Then the category 2 AIFs shall be exempt from regulation 3 and 3A of SEBI PIT regulations 1992 in respect of investment in companies listed on the SME exchange or SME segment of an exchange pursuant to due diligence of such companies and subject to the following conditions. Again, this is same as we had already discussed. The first condition is that the fund shall disclose any acquisition or dealing in securities pursuant to such due diligence within 2 working days of such acquisition or dealing to the stock exchange where the investee company is listed. Then such investment shall be locked in for a period of 1 year from the date of investment. We had discussed earlier that prohibition on dealing, communicating or counseling of matters relating to insider trading will not apply and it is subject to such conditions. Now, this again is applicable to category 2 AIF. For category 3 AIF, that is your hedge fund category, the additional conditions are that SEBI may come out with additional regulations through issuance of directions regarding areas such as operational standards, conduct of business rules, prudential requirements, restrictions on redemptions and conflict of interest as may be specified. These conditions will have to be complied by the category 3 AIF. With that, we will end this section of our topic on alternative investment funds. In the next part, we will be looking into the balance sections of the topic and we'll wrap up the lesson. Please let me know if you have any comments or suggestions, especially if you need any further clarity, and I'll be happy to help. I've tried some new techniques in this video to improve on this audio quality. I hope you can feel the difference. I'll be making further improvements as we go along. So till next time then, thank you all and enjoy.